guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay, it's Sunday, July 7th, and it is 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope it's a lot cooler where you are than it is here. My thermostat is reading, "Are you kidding me?" And I notice the squirrels are out there picking up nuts with pot holders. So anyway, that's the story. And I do have a fan on, and I'm hoping that it's not interfering, but I have to shut my air conditioner off because it sounds like a jumbo jet taking off. So I do have a fan on, and I'm hoping it's not going to interfere with the microphone at all. And if it is, well, it's the way it's got to be, because I don't want to be like Michael Jackson and have my face melting off and everything. So anyway, let's get to it. There are no Q posts, but plenty of Q-related news. I am so sorry that I did not do a show last night. I was not feeling well at all. And I feel much better today, much better. And so I am going to try to do 2 shows tonight. All right. Well, let's get to it. There is a lot of stuff. There's probably enough now for about 5 shows because I've just been saving it up, and there's so much going on, as I'm sure you all know. So we're going to start with this little piece of good news, and it is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested for sex trafficking of minors. And his little black book is out there as well. If you're interested, you can see all sorts of names, like, let me see, Tony Blair. Let me see if I can just think of some off the cuff. And of course, when I'm trying to think about them, I can't, but there's a lot of names that you will recognize. Okay, let's take a look at this. No, really, let's. Jeffrey Epstein is being held at the federal lockup in Manhattan, according to law enforcement sources. That's good news to me. I hope it's good news to you. Tomorrow, they are supposed to unseal the indictment. So that should be interesting. I don't know what will be told, if anything, but I am going to keep my ears and eyes open to see if there's any information at all. Billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for allegedly sex trafficking dozens of minors in New York and Florida between 2002 and 2005, and will appear in court in New York on Monday, according to 3 law enforcement sources. Epstein, who owns a New York City mansion and an island in the Caribbean, was being held at the federal lockup in Manhattan ahead of his court date. I hope nothing happens to him between the time that he's there. You know, I hope they don't find him swinging from his cell, because there are so many people implicated in this that it makes me worry. Because, you know, if he's unable to testify, something happens to him, a lot of people may go free, and we don't want that. So, Saturday's arrest by the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force comes about 12 years after the 66-year-old financier essentially got a slap on the wrist for allegedly molesting dozens of underage girls in Florida. For more than a decade, Epstein's alleged abuse of minors has been the subject of lawsuits brought by victims, investigations by local and federal authorities, and exposés in the press. But despite the attention cast on his alleged sex crimes, the hedge funder has managed to avoid any meaningful jail time, let alone federal charges. The new indictment, which according to 2 sources will be unsealed Monday in Manhattan federal court, will reportedly allege that Epstein sexually exploited dozens of underage girls in a now familiar scheme, paying them cash for massages and then molesting or sexually abusing them in his Upper East Side mansion or his palatial residence in Palm Beach. Epstein will be charged with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of minors, which could put him away for a minimum of 45 years. It's not enough. It's not enough. Even though he would die in prison, not enough. The case is being handled by the Public Corruption Unit for the Southern District of New York with assistance from the district's human trafficking officials and the FBI. Several of the billionaire's employees and associates allegedly recruited the girls for Epstein's abuse, and some victims eventually became recruiters themselves, according to law enforcement. The girls were as young as 14. Oh, I bet you there were younger ones as well. And Epstein knew they were underage, according to details of the arrest and indictment shared by two officials. Epstein's attorney, Martin Weinberg, declined to comment when reached by the Daily Beast on Saturday night. The Southern District of New York also declined to comment. It's been a long time coming. It's been too long coming, said attorney David Boyce, who represents Epstein's accuser, Virginia Roberts Giuffre and Sarah Ransom. It is an important step towards getting justice for the many victims of Mr. Epstein's sex trafficking enterprise. We hope that prosecutors will not stop with Mr. Epstein because there are many people who participated with him and made the sex trafficking possible, he told the Daily Beast. In an era where Me Too has toppled powerful men, Epstein's name was largely absent from the national conversation until the Miami Herald published a 3-part series on how his wealth, power, and influence shielded him from federal prosecution. For years, the Daily Beast has reported on Epstein's alleged abuse, starting with Conchita Cernoff's expose on his easy jail sentence and soft treatment by the U.S. Attorney's Office, which ultimately scrapped a 53-page indictment against Epstein. Excuse me. Lemon water, and I have some lifesavers on standby in case I get coffee. All right. Which ultimately scrapped a 53-page indictment against Epstein. An earlier version of Epstein's plea deal included a 10-year federal sentence before his star-studded lawyers threatened to go to trial in a case prosecutors feared was unwinnable, in part because Epstein's team dredged up dirt on the victims, including social media posts indicating drug use. Just because a young lady uses drugs does not mean that they were not abused. Excuse me. I think I may break out the heavy-duty artillery here. I don't know what it is. As soon as I start talking, I'm going to have a red tongue. Well, what do you do? Sorry. I'll try not to smack it. Nothing's worse than hearing somebody smacking stuff. Okay. Meanwhile, the financier flirted among his homes in Palm Beach, New York City, and the Virgin Islands, as well as his secluded Zorro Ranch in Stanley, New Mexico, transporting young women on his private jet to facilitate the sexual abuse that's gone unchecked by authorities, his alleged victims say. Why did I put two of these in my mouth? I don't know. I guess I figured if one's good, two's better. All right. So he flitted among his homes in Palm Beach, New York City, and the Virgin Islands, as well as his secluded Zorro Ranch in Stanley, New Mexico, transporting young women on his private jet to facilitate the sexual abuse that's gone unchecked by authorities, his alleged victims say. In an announcement planned for Monday, the FBI is expected to provide a number for the victims to contact the Southern District of New York. Now, if you have not heard this previously and you're not aware of Epstein Island, what he was doing was he would invite very powerful men, and I assume there were women as well, but I don't know, definitely powerful men, and he would invite them to the island to partake in sexual endeavors with underage girls and possibly boys, depending on their preference, I suppose. And it is also alleged that these victims were killed, and hence there was all these underground tunnels, which he has since filled in, and a temple there, a temple to Moloch, and who knows what activities went on in the temple. We can only surmise. I don't even want to guess, although I have a pretty good idea. And that temple has now been knocked to the ground. So I think he's done a lot to try to cover up his trail. There was a fire there on Epstein Island, and I know Richard Branson is one of the people that traveled there with him and is in his little black book. Not surprising because Branson himself has an island. All right. As early as 2003, Vicky Ward's Vanity Fair profile cracked into Epstein's enigmatic facade and, as Ward noted, revealed he was definitely not what he claimed to be. Back then, allegations of sexual abuse leveled by one accuser, Maria Farmer, and her family were excised from Ward's piece after Epstein pressured the magazine. Epstein's bust comes mere months after a federal judge ruled his 2007 non-prosecution agreement, NPA, secretly inked under former U.S. Attorney and current Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta, violated federal law by keeping Epstein's victims in the dark. Under the sweetheart deal, Epstein dodged federal charges that might have sent him back to prison for life. Or sent him to prison, not back to prison. He instead pleaded guilty to minor state charges in Palm Beach and served 13 months in a private wing of a county jail, mostly on work release. The alleged victims who sued the government for violating the Crime Victims Act asked the court to rescind Epstein's non-prosecution agreement and called for the feds to hold him criminally liable. The NPA also granted immunity to Epstein's co-conspirators, identified in the document as including but not limited to Sarah Kellen, Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, or Nadia Markinkova. I think that's close. If not, it's close. Okay, but in June, prosecutors for the government advised the judge to uphold the plea deal, saying that voiding it would cause unintended harm. Excuse me. It's my secret weapon. Okay, and but in June, prosecutors for the government advised the judge to uphold the plea deal, saying that voiding it would cause unintended harm to many of the victims and jeopardize monetary settlements that more than a dozen of them received. If today's report is true, it only proves that Epstein should have been charged by the federal prosecutors 12 years ago in Florida. Yeah, no kidding. With his money, Epstein was able to buy more than a decade of delay in facing justice. But fortunately, he wasn't able to postpone justice forever, said attorney Paul Castle, who represents multiple victims of Epstein in their lawsuit against the federal government. Hang on here. While New York prosecutors are apparently seeking to hold Epstein accountable, the fight will continue to force federal prosecutors in Florida to do the same thing, Castle added in a statement. While Epstein was at the head of the international sex trafficking organization, that conspiracy could not have functioned without many others playing their part. Jane Doe 1 and 2 will continue to fight for all of Epstein's co-conspirators to be held accountable in New York, Florida, and anywhere else they committed crimes. Epstein reportedly supplied valuable intel to federal investigators in exchange for his lenient plea deal. Now, this is important. I don't think that this has ever come out before. If it has, I'm not aware of it. But he reportedly supplied valuable intel to federal investigators in exchange for his lenient plea deal. It's been speculated this information may have related to Bear Stearns' executives' alleged crimes in the lead-up to the 2008 financial crisis. According to Page 6 report, Epstein lost $57 million in Bear Stearns' collapse and was a victim identified as major investor number one in the indictment of hedge fund managers Ralph Cioffi and Matthew Tannen. A federal jury acquitted Cioffi and Tannen of security fraud charges. But in March 2019, Fox Business reported that Epstein did not provide any meaningful cooperation to obtain his relatively light sentence in the hedge fund case, or likely any case tied to the financial crisis. Had to give him a stern look there. He's peeking at me. He's looking like a New World Order cat because he's peeking around with just one eye. All right. Jack Goldberger One of Epstein's lawyer in the Palm Beach sex crimes case told Fox of the Bear Stearns prosecution, Mr. Epstein was never spoken to by any of the authorities on this subject. He was a very large investor, no more, no less. Okay, I'm not going to go through all this because we've got a lot more to get to. But yeah, the local police chief, Michael Ryder, accused prosecutors of giving Epstein special treatment, and in 2006 referred the case to the FBI. He did get special treatment. There's no doubt about it. And Mueller's involved. How do you like that? He is. All right. Okay, now, I'm going to go back. I mean, this is a very long article, so I can't read it all because, or that's all we'll get to tonight, and there is a lot. Now, the left has taken it upon themselves to pounce on Trump immediately because any news that comes out, the left is going to try and spin it, right? They're going to try and use it in their favor. So they thought, oh, great. Well, we'll accuse Trump of being pals with Epstein because then it'll make it seem like he's guilty of something. So I found this by Slappy K, and I don't know who Slappy K is, but they've got a picture of a cat for their profile picture. So how bad can they be? Anyway, they had this on their Twitter, and it says, Trump is not in the flight log to Jeffrey Epstein's Little St. James Lolita Island, not even once. Now, you'll hear some of these Democrats say that he was. He's not. It's been searched thoroughly. He's not in there, not once. Trump hitched a ride from Daytona Beach, Florida to New York City with Epstein's son once. Now, let's go on. Again, by Slappy K. Upon learning that Jeffrey Epstein had sought sexual contact with the 14-year-old daughter of an employee, Trump kicked Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago golf club and banned him for life. Now, does that sound like somebody that's involved? Doesn't sound like it to me, but let's look at this. All right, billionaire Epstein arrested on child sex trafficking charges, faces 45 years in prison. Now, this is just another source, and I don't know if there's anything new here, but it says financier Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested in New York for allegedly years of sex trafficking underage girls. It comes more than a decade after he struck a plea deal with prosecution. Epstein was arrested on Saturday evening. Multiple U.S. media outlets reported, citing law enforcement sources, the billionaire sex offender who served 13 months in an open-door prison for abusing scores of underage girls after his lawyer struck a non-prosecution agreement in 2007 might now have to spend the rest of his life in prison. Feds broke the law in hush-hush Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking plea deal, Florida judge rules. Good news. Now, scroll down here. The Daily Beast reported that Epstein will be charged with one count of sex trafficking of minors and one count of conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of minors. If convicted on both charges, the 66-year-old might be sentenced to up to 45 years behind bars. Now, let's come down here. The victims of the Epstein pedophile ring were kept in the dark about result of a gross violation of federal law by the prosecution as it deprived the victims of the ability to contest it. The deal was negotiated between Epstein's lawyer and then Southern District Attorney for Florida, Alexander Acosta. Acosta has since made quite a career becoming Secretary of Labor in the Trump administration and has denied any wrongdoing in the high-profile case. Speculation has been rife that Epstein not only abused the girls himself, but also loaned them out to his influential and affluent friends, including Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz, who have both denied any involvement, as well as Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. It's not true. It may have been There may be speculation about Donald Trump, but to my knowledge, there is no evidence of that whatsoever. Epstein is expected to appear before court on Monday. Now, the reason he was loaning out these underage girls is because his place in the Caribbean was St. James Island, or Little St. James Island, I think it's called. It was equipped, all the rooms were equipped, it was like hotel rooms, and they were all equipped with recording devices. And they probably didn't know they were being recorded, because someone like Prince Andrew, I don't think, would be very happy about knowing that he was being recorded with an underage girl. But this was insurance policy for him, because he could blackmail these high-profile people, and I'm sure he did. So anyway, let's get out of there and there and go back. All right. Sorry. I'm done now. Okay. Boom. This is from Warrior Watchman. Boom. Oops. Looky what I found. I hate when I do that. Flashback. Billionaire sex offender Epstein once claimed he co-founded the Clinton Foundation. Well, looky there. Really? He claims he co-founded it. Now, whether that's true, I don't know. But I know there are pictures out there of him with Bill Clinton at the island out there in the water, along with Tony Podesta, and I don't know who else. They sure looked like they were good friends. And Clinton is in the log for Lolita Express dozens of times. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a lot. Like, this wasn't one time or two times or even 5 times. Many, many times. So, yeah, and I doubt he went there just to hang around in the water. Don't think so. All right. Now, let's look at this, because this is a little juicy. It's a lot juicy. Oh crap, I gotta disable my ad blocker to get to this. Hate when that happens. No, really, I do. All right. Jeffrey Epstein donated $10,000 to House Democrats in October. They frantically sent it back. Gee, I wonder why. Why would they send back that $10,000? Taking money from a convicted pedophile is not a good look. No, it's not. Gee, even the Democrats didn't want it. Even the Democrats, yeah. On October 29th of this year, convicted pedophile and registered sex offender Jeffrey Epstein donated $10,000 to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. 3 days later, with the midterm elections looming, the committee sent the money back. Oh, that's funny. I don't care who you are, it's funny. The transaction was buried in a massive filing posted by the committee on the FEC website last week, and it shows the degree to which Epstein, once a high-dollar Democratic donor and friend to powerful politicians on both sides of the aisle, has become an unmitigated political pariah. Without second thought, the DCCC immediately refunded this unsolicited donation, a committee spokesperson told the Daily Beast. Well, of course they did. The donation came as Epstein faced renewed scrutiny over a sweetheart plea deal that landed him in prison for just 13 months after he was convicted in 2008 of felony sexual solicitation of underage girls. The Miami Herald recently published an expose featuring interviews with a number of the 36 underage women with whom the FBI reportedly concluded Epstein had sexual encounters. From 1990 through 2004, Epstein donated about $145,000 to Democratic candidates for office, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. He was also a major contributor to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation. Well, according to him, he co-founded it. Epstein was also a longtime member of President Donald Trump's private Mar-a-Lago club, the Florida prosecutor who granted him his sweetheart sentencing deal, Alex Acosta, is now Trump's Secretary of Labor. See, they're trying really hard to connect the two, but there's no connection there. He was a member of, Trump's golf club. Okay, well, lots of important people are. But as soon as he stepped out of line with an employee's daughter, he was banned for life. That's got to tell you something, because if they were real close friends, you don't think he'd do that. He'd probably pay off the young lady or something. I don't know what he would do. I'm just surmising here. I don't think he would ban him for life. Epstein was also, okay, I've read that. And one of Epstein's accusers told the Herald that she had sex with Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer, and a Trump ally. So, a Trump ally. That does not implicate Trump. There's things that my friends do that I don't agree with. That doesn't implicate me in anything. At least 6 times while she was underage, Dershowitz has denied the charges. Once extremely politically connected and charitable, Epstein's giving slowed considerably leading up to and after his conviction and imprisonment. He resumed some political contributions in 2014 election cycle when he donated $2,600 to an independent candidate for House in Connecticut and $5,000 each to 2 political groups supporting that candidate. The latter donation were later found to have violated federal contribution limits, but the Federal Election Commission declined to pursue enforcement action against Epstein. Well, of course they did. The following election cycle, Epstein gave a maxed out $5,400 contribution to Delegate Stacey Plaskett, who represented the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Epstein owns a private island. Yeah. He continued donating to Plaskett in the 2018 election cycle, chipping in $2,700 to her re-election effort. Plaskett has not returned those donations, and spokesperson did not respond to a request for comment on those contributions. The $10,000 refunded donation to the DCCC appeared to be Epstein's largest single federal political contribution since he was released from prison. Yeah. So there you go. Interesting stuff. So looks like things are happening. I'd like it to be a much bigger scale, but and I would like it to be the big players like Hillary. I am going to be most upset if she does not go to jail. I am, because I don't know if there's any human being, there might be, but I don't know if there's any other human being that has committed as many crimes as Hillary Clinton, including treason. And she clearly did commit treason. So she needs to be punished. She needs to be held accountable. Doesn't matter, justice shouldn't be just for the people, the elites walk free and it's just us plebes that go to prison. That's the way it's been, and we want to know that that has changed before we can have confidence again in the Department of Justice. All right. Excuse me. All right. This may be... It says Epstein sex slave lawyer Donald Trump no way involved in any untoward activity. Far from preying on underage girls, Trump banned pervert Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, we know that that's true. Donald Trump once barred child molester Jeffrey Epstein from his famed Mar-a-Lago club after the presidential candidate caught him hitting on a young girl, RadarOnline.com has learned. The bombshell revelation about the fractured relationship between the 2 billionaires casts more doubt over the rape allegations made against Trump in an explosive lawsuit filed by a model in California court. As Radar broke, the alleged victim, identified as Katie Johnson, claims in a $100 million lawsuit that she was subjected to extreme sexual and physical abuse starting at age 13. Notice how none of these people came forward. Excuse me. I wasn't picking my nose. But none of these people came forward before Trump was president. I wonder why. I mean, he had just as much money. He had fame. Why didn't they come forward? I'm not saying, I mean, you know what? It could turn out to be true. I really hope not, but it makes me wonder how all these people are coming out of the woodwork now. All right. In fact, Trump's lawyers have insisted that the presidential candidate and Epstein have no relationship, and they would only deal with each other because the convicted pervert was once a member of the Mar-a-Lago club. According to an investigation by Radar, Trump was among dozens of renowned New Yorkers who knew Epstein socially but ostracized him after Palm Beach police uncovered the financier's sleazy double life. What's more, Brad Edwards, a lawyer for Epstein's favorite underage sex slave, Virginia Roberts, subpoenaed Trump to give a deposition in the civil case against the sleazebag, but it was eventually withdrawn because Trump voluntarily provided information. Around 2008 or 2009, Brad was issuing subpoenas to a lot of people who'd met Epstein. The source told Radar he got a call back from Mr. Trump's lawyer to say there was no need to subpoena him. Mr. Trump would call him immediately. The call followed quickly, Radar has been told. During this conversation, Mr. Trump was open and forthright, Edwards said. I cannot discuss the substance of the conversation, but I will say that it was obvious to me that he was in no way involved in any untoward activity. A source close to Virginia said she learned of Katie's claims yesterday. Virginia has never heard of the girl, the source said. Several sources have told Radar the lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court in Riverside, California, is apparently a desperate bid to derail Trump's shoo-in nomination. Trump told Radar there is no merit to these allegations, period. Now, this was a while ago, but it is very applicable. This is from 2016, but it's applicable today. And I noticed that they're doing some photoshopped images of Trump and Epstein. So just don't get fooled by all this, because the Democrats are doing everything they can leading up to the 2020 election to get it into people's minds that Trump is sleazy, he covers things up, whatever. They'll do whatever they have to do. They don't care if it's true or not. We can tell that by the mainstream media. The news is as much fiction as anything else on TV now. It really is. All right, let's go back. No, really, let's. All right, let's look at this. No, really, let's. Okay, now, this is from Technofog, and I thought you needed to see this. Actually, I think I might go ahead and follow this person. Wait, was pedophile Jeffrey Epstein an informant for Mueller's FBI? Sure looks that way. From the 5/24/18 FBI Vault release, Epstein has also provided information to the FBI as agreed upon. Is that why he escaped serious charges for molesting over 20 girls? Oh, I think that's a drop in the bucket, really, but let's look down here. Let me make this a little bigger. Be bigger, she said, and it was. And let's look at this. It is down here on 9/11/08. Case agent advised writer. Oh, he's just sleeping. Such a little angel. On 9/11/08, case agent advised writer that Epstein is currently being prosecuted by the state of Florida and is complying with all conditions of his plea with the state of Florida. Sorry. Epstein has... I have to see where his lips are at all times and make sure there is not a cord between his teeth. All right. Epstein has also provided information to the FBI as agreed upon. Case agent advised that no federal prosecution will occur in this matter as long as Epstein continues to uphold his agreement with the state of Florida. Case agent also advised that no further forfeiture assistance will be required for this case. Case agent is requested to contact writer in the event this matter moves forward on a federal level. Yeah, and where is Mueller's name? Let me see here. I don't see Mueller's name here, but I guess they're saying that this happened at a time that, Mueller was in charge of the FBI. So I don't know, but it's very interesting, and I wouldn't doubt it, because Mueller is certainly not a white hat. We know that. So let's come down here. Here's the thing. I'm seeing nothing in Epstein's 2007 plea deal with the DOJ that required him to provide information to the FBI. This begs the question of whether there was a separate agreement, still undisclosed, with the FBI. And it's not conspiracy if it fits the behavior of the parties involved. Remember, subsequent civil suits uncovered efforts by the DOJ to keep the plea deal secret from the public and the girls Epstein molested. Hugely important dates: 9/27/2007, Epstein signs the non-prosecution agreement. 10/31/2007, internal emails show the FBI agents still had not interviewed all the victims. Isn't that interesting? Yes, it is. Now, second month of 2018, 5 months after the plea deal was reached, FBI agents still haven't interviewed all the victims' witnesses. FBI agents haven't even seen all the physical evidence. They gave him a plea deal and they hadn't even finished the investigation. Wow. Unbelievable. Okay, Techno, what does this have to do with Mueller? The case was being run from D.C. Spring of 2008, emails between FBI agents and the local assistant U.S. attorneys revealed continued delays in getting the case to grand jury due to the failure to receive decision from D.C. Yeah, that would have come from Mueller. Yet more records. 1/23/2008. The FBI was directly involved in the D.C. meetings with the DOJ about Epstein. Did Mueller attend? I would assume so. Looks like we have an answer on Epstein's cooperation with the FBI, DOJ. Thanks to great reporting by the Miami Herald, the DOJ wanted to prosecute executives instead of a child molester. DOJ priorities. Yeah, we know that they're not. Their priorities are not always the people's priorities. Yeah. So, FYI, Epstein helping FBI has been known info for a long time. Well, I most certainly didn't know it. Did you? Q has been hinting on and off at massive pedo bus. Wonder if there are things Mueller found out but wasn't allowed to pursue because of Holder/Lynch DOJ. This could be part of his hidden mandate. That's very thin. Thin is my middle name. And these are just responses to what she's had to say, but they're very revealing. And it says here, now this is from somewhere, I'm not sure where. How many of your friends, known associates, turned out to be convicted pedophiles? Well, of course, we've got John Podesta and Tony Podesta. And this is Dennis Hastert, pled guilty October 15th. Don't know. And just 2 or 3, what's the big deal? How many victims does this add up to? Where do the victims come from? I don't know, and I'm not going to get into all that because we don't have the time. But Tony Robinson imprisoned in UK 13 years for only reporting the massive Rotherham, England schoolgirl grooming scandal the government is covering up. He will die in prison, and they know it. All UK media not allowed to even report. Rotherham sex survivor, I told authorities and they did nothing. A survivor of the child exploitation ring in Rotherham called Katie Hopkins to tell her horrifying story. And yeah, there's a lot of this. And here it says Donald Trump was a regular at Epstein'S sex parties and on the Lolita Express. That is an out and out lie, because his name does not, everybody that visited that island is in the flight manifest. Trump is not. So there you go. And it says, even if this was 50 years ago, these people are sick. The government is letting pedos off the hook. And they are. They're talking about the UK government. But obviously our government was doing the same thing, right? Until Trump. And this person says, when you have the goods on so many people, you can get away with this shite. Just ask Hillary. Right. Thank you guys for all your work. Hope this is rewarded by the prosecution of all these swamp rats. Mueller is one of the biggest disgrace of the history of our country, and I would tend to agree with that. So let's go on. This says, if Trump wins, simple. I'll get the FBI to try to overthrow him while Mueller here runs a bogus investigation for cover. Yeah. And it says, not surprising. Developing blackmail material is how the swamp maintains control of the country and countless politicians. Of course, we know that. Not surprising, FBI would employ pedophile island owner as an informant. Not surprising at all, is it? All right. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back. Sorry. Okie dokie, let's go back. And let's take a look at this, and then we're going to move on from Epstein, because I know you're saying, all right, enough already. Prosecutor in 2019 Epstein case is Maureen Comey, daughter of fired FBI Director James Comey, who participated in 2017 Pussy Hat March. So what's that going to mean? I don't know. Florida billionaire Jeffrey Epstein was arrested on Saturday. We know that. 4 sources with direct knowledge of the matter say that Jeffrey Epstein was taken into custody today in New York after arriving from an overseas flight. He faces federal sex trafficking charges. And CNN reported on Saturday night that the prosecutor is James Comey's daughter. Don't you think that's kind of a conflict of interest? I don't know, but a team of federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York, along with some in the Public Corruption Unit, have been assigned to the case. Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, is one of the prosecutors, according to a source with knowledge of the case. Now, I don't know who is who here. It says Maureen Comey with her mother participated in the Washington, D.C. Cat Hat March in January 2017. So this must be his wife, and this must be his daughter. Yeah. This could get, and this by Shimon, whatever his last name is, I cannot pronounce it. This could get even more interesting with public corruption prosecutors involved in the case. And Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, is one of the prosecutors, according to a source with knowledge of the case. And Maureen Comey is an assistant U.S. attorney in New York State. Maureen Comey has been an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York office since 2015. Maureen Comey went to William and Mary School, where she earned a bachelor degree in history and music and attended Harvard Law School. So I would think that that is a very strong conflict of interest, but what do I know? I'm not a lawyer, but I would assume that it is. And I don't know. I just don't obviously have a good feeling about her because she's obviously a Democrat and very, very liberal. Okay, let's come down here. No, really, let's. Now, this is interesting, not that. This by Steve Scalise. Joe Biden claims Russian election interference wouldn't have happened on his watch or Obama's watch. Seriously, Joe? It did happen on your watch and Obama's watch. Duh. Let's walk down memory lane. Well, no need to do that. But it just, like, these people think that people will just agree with them because they say. It's like they manufacture their own reality with their voices. They think, oh, once I speak it, it is so. It's like, let there be light, and there was light. Seriously, they think this way. I can manufacture reality with my voice. I just say something is so, even though it's not, and people will believe me. And people do. That's the really wild thing. People do believe because they don't pay enough attention. They have so much stuff vying for their attention, along with all the, like the Kardashians and whether somebody's wearing underpants or not. And, all these stupid things that are reported on the news, which really should not be. They're not news. It's entertainment news, but it's not news. Who cares? And yet everybody's, has all this information vying for attention in their brain. And so Joe Biden says, yeah, it wouldn't have happened on my watch. And everybody goes, yeah, that's right. That's right. It wouldn't have. It blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. All right. Now, let's look at this. I'm trying to take things as they occur here. I'm going to do another video tonight. So we'll go another few minutes and I will stop and prepare the next one for your viewing pleasure. All right, seized laptop shows Hillary Clinton covered up Weiner's alleged sex crimes with 15-year-old during election. Anybody surprised? I didn't think so. Yeah, and what are the odds that this guy, last name is Weiner? Would you want that last name? I'm just saying. Even as Anthony Weiner's sexting victim was contemplating suicide, Hillary Clinton, who knew about the illicit texting, did nothing to intervene to help the girl. Hillary's silence allowed Weiner to harass the 15-year-old high school sophomore for another 4 months. Fortunately, the girl is recovering from the ordeal, and Weiner is on his way to federal prison. Have to report today to begin his sentence for tormenting the youth with sexual texts and phone calls. Now, this is an older article, but let me see, when is this from? November 6, 2017. But this is the first time I'm hearing this, so it's important, I think. And maybe you knew this. I sure didn't. But investigators who worked the underage child pornography case against Anthony Weiner confirmed the laptop seized from the former congressman contained proof that Hillary Clinton knew he was engaging in a long sexual relationship with a minor, but did not intervene to alert any state or federal authorities to protect the 15-year-old. And why would she? Because she's done the same thing. She's probably too afraid. Well, no, she wouldn't do it because the thing is, Anthony Weiner probably has plenty of dirt on her. Not blowing the whistle on a serial texter allowed Weiner to keep sexting the youth via cell phone and internet chats for another 4 more months, law enforcement sources said, while Clinton was busy campaigning to be the first female U.S. president with Weiner's wife and aide, Huma Abedin. He was at home sending the 15-year-old online porn and divulging his rape fantasies to the girl. Weiner also apparently talked on the telephone with the girl based on intelligence gleaned from the laptop. He's a piece of work. Instead of rescuing the minor from a sex-obsessed Weiner, I'm sorry, that All right, I'll move on. Clinton, who was the Democratic presidential candidate at the time and eventual front runner, counseled her longtime aide Abedin to end her relationship with him because bad publicity could harm the campaign. Always thinking about herself, isn't she? That Hillary Clinton, yeah, never thinks about anybody else, just herself. Clinton and Abedin discovered Weiner's sexting with the minor in April 2016 and that he had already been corresponding with the youth for months. Neither Clinton nor Abedin apparently did anything to stop the abuse of the minor. Instead, the repeated incidents which breach a host of state and federal laws were kept quiet. That's our Hillary. Yeah. Oh, I'm just so glad every day I wake up that she's not the president. Yet Clinton, who champions herself as a women's rights advocate, are you kidding me? Did nothing to help the girl, and it gets even worse. Law enforcement sources said the high school sophomore was suffering from depression and told Weiner during over 7 months of correspondences that she often wanted to end her life. Weiner did nothing to try to stop the girl from hurting herself. Neither did Clinton or Abedin. Lovely. All is warehoused on Weiner's silver Dell Inspiron 15 7000 laptop, which the FBI obtained search warrant in October 2016, law enforcement sources said. That means the FBI knew Clinton did nothing to try and stop Weiner from repeatedly sexting a minor during the election, and the FBI likewise has apparently done nothing since the election to charge or even question Clinton for what appears to be intentionally endangering a minor entangled in child pornography case. Ex-FBI Director James Comey previously said his agents combed Weiner's laptop prior to the election and found no evidence indicating Hillary Clinton had engaged in any criminal conduct. Yes, and we all believe James Comey, don't we? Yeah. However, Comey and his understudies were able to comb through over approximately 600,000 emails and files on the computer in mere weeks, yet found nothing linking Clinton to the Weiner child pornography case. And we all believe that, don't we? All right. The information does not jibe with law enforcement sources. According to their intelligence, there was discussion of charging Clinton with New York statutes for not alerting law enforcement that a minor was being repeatedly exploited, but such talk was ultimately squashed by federal prosecutors who said this was now an FBI and Justice Department case and no charges like that would originate from New York or from local law enforcement where the girl lived. Former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, who presided over the New York probe, kicked the can down the road to avoid implicating Clinton during the election, law enforcement sources said. It was clear that Clinton was to get a free pass, although NYPD said investigators held out some hope she would be charged after the election, especially when she lost. That never happened because she was insulated by Bharara, who was jockeying to become the next U.S. Attorney General if Clinton won the White House. Oh, what tangled webs we weave. They, feds, sat on it, one New York Police Department source said. Effing disgraceful. Some of the facts that Abedin and Clinton and the FBI apparently intentionally squelched include: Weiner coaxed video chats in which he asked the girl to undress and touch herself and repeat his name out loud. The girl told Weiner that she was a sophomore in high school and trying to get a learner's permit to learn how to drive. Weiner knew the girl was suffering from depression and occasional suicidal thoughts, yet urged the youth to dress up in schoolgirl outfits and pressed her to engage in rape fantasies. That's what every depressed teenager needs, yeah. Weiner repeatedly told the high school student that he wanted to force himself on her when her father was out of town and away from the house. Wow. But it's all okay with Clinton. Yeah, it's okay with her. Weiner forced the girl to write him a letter saying their online relationship was friendly, and at no time did he engage in sexual conversation or innuendo. The youth complied. The letter is on the laptop and in the FBI's possession. New York Police Department said Weiner may have provided a copy to Clinton to cover her in case these allegations exploded during the campaign. Weiner used his cell phone to correspond with the girl, and the texting apps Confide and Kik, as well as desktop, Facebook, and Skype from the girl's bedroom while her her parents were often asleep in the next room. Likewise alarming, and largely due to Aberdeen and Clinton's silence, Weiner continued to sex the teenager for approximately 4 months after Clinton learned of the illegal relationship. Weiner, who employed the alias of T-Dog, well, he is a dog. I don't mean that as an insult to dogs. To correspond with the youth on one texting app, texted the minor after meeting her on Twitter in January 2016. The hundreds of correspondences included exchanging explicit pictures, pornography, sexual texts, and video chats, as well as telephone calls. These people are just lovely. Wouldn't you just love to have these people over for tea? Unbelievable. And yet, so believable. Let's go on here. And let's look at this. Intel operative who altered Obama's passport records turned FBI informant on boss John Brennan, then turned up murdered in D.C. Now, again, this isn't news, but I've never heard of this. I didn't know this. Did you? And if you did, why didn't you tell me? High-ranking D.C. Metro Police not interested in renewing homicide investigation per conversations with True Pundit. A key witness in a federal probe into Barack Obama's passport information stolen and altered from the State Department was gunned down and killed in front of a district church in D.C. Lieutenant Quarles Harris Jr., 24, who had been cooperating with federal investigators, was found late at night, slumped dead inside a car. He was reportedly waiting to meet with FBI agents about his boss, John Brennan. Back in March 2008, the State Department launched an investigation of improper computer access to the passport records of Barack Hussein Obama, and days later, those of Hillary Clinton and John McCain. The investigation centered on one employee, a contract worker for a company that was headed by Brennan, a key Obama campaign advisor who later became assistant to the president and deputy national security advisor for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism. Ultimately, Brennan was appointed CIA director. First, Obama's passport records were accessed and altered. Then days later, likely to provide cover, Brennan's private intel company accessed Clinton's and McCain's records, as the State Department had already flagged the Obama breach by that time. Brennan's company accessed and altered Obama's passport before the 2008 presidential election, while Brennan was also working on Obama's campaign team. After the election, Brennan took a job inside the White House. A month after the passport breach, the key witness in the case was murdered. Harris was shot in the head in his car in front of his church. Wow. Lieutenant Harris told federal investigators before he was murdered that he received passport information from a co-conspirator who works for the U.S. Department of State. What became of the co-conspirator? Why wasn't she brought to trial? There's no way to tell what might have been done to Obama's passport records by those who accessed them. Key information could have been altered or destroyed. On April 8th, 2008, after the breach became public, Obama confessed to having taken a trip to Pakistan in 1981. The then candidate said, "I traveled to Pakistan when I was in college." Journalist Jake Tapper was surprised and said, this last part, a college trip to Pakistan, was news to many of us who have been following the race closely, and it was odd that we hadn't heard about it before, given all the talk of Pakistan during this campaign. Did Obama confess to the trip, which he doesn't mention in either of his autobiographies because of the passport breach? Or did Brennan simply erase the trip from Obama's passport records through his role as CEO of Intel Contractor Analysis Corp., where Brennan worked between his CIA career and Obama's White House on Brennan's journey to CIA head? Only Brennan's employee, Lieutenant Charles Harris, knows, and the FBI. And dead men tell no tales, especially in D.C. Just ask Seth Rich. And the FBI cannot be trusted. Unsolved murder case closed. That is the first that I heard that. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't paying attention back in 2000, 18. I don't know, but it's, I hate to say, keep saying it's unbelievable, but I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, the more we learn about all this stuff, it just, I think, to me, it makes me more and more irate that nothing has happened and there's been nobody brought to justice yet. Yes, we are getting some of the pedophiles reined in and so forth, and we're breaking up some of the sex rings and trafficking and so forth. This is all good. It's all good. But we want to see these high profile people brought to justice, and soon. I think people are losing patience. They really are. At least that is my experience. And I know from myself, I'm probably the most patient person on earth, and I'm losing patience. So that's tells me that there's a whole lot of people out there that are also losing patience. Now, one more thing, and that's going to be it for this video. Candace Owens rejected. Candace Owens, 1, rejected 25,000 jobs for people who need money. 2, rejected beds and funding for children sleeping on floors. Why does AOC worship problems while rejecting their solutions? Because, like all communists, she relies upon anger and helplessness of people to garner power for herself. And that, my friends, is true. Now, I think that's it. We are just over an hour, and I know many of you are not fans of the longer video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that off there, and I will be back very shortly. I'm going to get this uploaded, and I'm going to start recording now for the next one. And thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you guys that buy me a coffee every now and then, and thank you to the Patreon supporters. I can't do this without you guys, because I would have to be spending the time that I do this doing other freelance work, and so I am very, very appreciative, and I don't say it enough, I don't think. I love you guys. I love all the comments that you leave, and you make me laugh, you encourage me, you inspire me. So I think we have a really good group here, and I hope you guys come back. All right, you guys have a great night, and I'll see you in a bit. Good night.